Crazy. Talk about like one. How did you? For people who don't know, I mean, you've told the story a lot, but just what's like a quick synopsis on how you got like your past and how you got initially started into the real estate game.
So my story is not a traditional real estate story, right? Or
Right.
real estate investor story. So I barely have a high school diploma,
Yep.
right? My parents, I don't come from money. Nobody in my family owned any real estate.
Mm-hmm.
So when I graduated high school, instead of going to college like my friends did, I chose the streets.
Right.
So everybody told me if you don't change your life, you're gonna end up in prison. I didn't listen. I ended up in prison. So, but at that point, I turned a negative into a positive. So when I was in prison, there was a guy. His name is Renee, which he's to this day he's my big brother.
Yeah.
He was a big real estate developer in Hoboken, New Jersey.
Yep.
He was one of the first guys that invested in Hoboken when Hoboken was urban. And then, of course, Hoboken is probably one of the most expensive places in New Jersey.
Yeah.
So he went in. He had a charge for political corruption. He's never been in prison before. So I taught him how to bid, and he taught me about real estate.
Wait, when you say bid, what is a bid?
I told him how, to kind of taught him how everything worked in prison.
Right, just kind of the politics.
Yeah, the politics, the right thing to do. Don't cut nobody on the phone. Don't cut nobody on the child line.
Right.
Don't sit here. Don't sit. Stuff like that. Watch TV and this TV.
You were like
that TV.
You were like his big homie in jails.
Yeah. Even though like I was for white collar crime, so
right.
I was in a camp, so it wasn't that serious.
Right.
But there's still rules.
There's still rules everywhere. Yeah.
There's rules like everywhere else.
Yeah. So, what was your first like? Do you remember your first property? Was it a successful one?
So, when I get out of jail, which is crazy, this was the Wild Cowboy days back in 2006, right?
So this is before the crash happened.
So which is people always ask me that I can't believe this. So right out of prison, I go to the halfway house and I start doing mortgages.
Wow.
So here I am in the halfway house and I have access to people's information that just came out of prison, right? But those were the Wild Cowboy days, right?
Yeah.
So I come home, I start doing mortgages. It was crazy back then. In that market, I remember my first loan that I did, the lady was 80 years old. She bought a house for $480,000 and we got her 100% financing.
What the fuck?
She was on Social Security. Like I said, crazy.
Everybody was getting approved for houses back then.
Back then, if you bought a house, right, I would buy a house because you bought a house to compete with you, and I would get approved like the next day.
Just no problem.
Yeah, you buy a house today and it's worth $50,000 more the next day, and you go and cash out or get a line of credit.
That's crazy.
It was crazy back then, right? That's why the bubble happened. So I came home, started doing mortgages, was doing great. Straight out of prison, I'm making $15,000-$20,000 a month,
right,
which is awesome. Then the market collapses. My wife's Cuban, I'm Dominican, so we opened up a Cuban restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
We had no business opening up a restaurant.
Right.
We don't know nothing about the restaurant business.
Tough
business. My mother-in-law, she's a chef.
Mm-hmm.
So we opened up the restaurant and, we were kind of counting on her, right?
Right.
So first 2 months, we're doing great, right? The next thing you know, man, we got into the restaurant business. That's when there was like a shortage, right, of everything. I think it was like an ether shortage or something like that. So rice went up, flour went up.
Everything
went up, right? A box of plantains went from like $20 to like $90, right?
Jesus.
So we're in the restaurant for like a year and a half. We lost everything. I came home doing great with mortgages, switched to this.
Right.
Losing everything again. We had 2 houses in foreclosure that we owned at the time. Mm-hmm. And I saw an opportunity in real estate. I took it. And I made $70,000 and we closed the restaurant the next day.
What were the details on that first $70,000?
That was a 3-family home in Patterson, New Jersey.
Okay.
Yeah, and I did that as a flip.
So you bought it, fixed it up, flipped it.
Yep. So I actually bought it, and the market was still at that point not going down all the way, so it was still like right there. So I bought it and I sold it to somebody else and made a quick $70,000.
Wow.
Yep.
That's crazy. What was your financing process for that first house?
Well, the person that bought it off of me, they bought it cash. And wow. I got it. I got that house, if I remember correctly. I believe it was FHA.